Welcome to Remembrance Day, and we're going to look at comments made by Alec Penstone and how they have been received in the media. And we're going to look particularly at the differentiation between how much more sympathetically the American media has taken his comments than the British media. Certainly a bigger audience and a more sympathetic audience. Alec Penstone, 100-year-old veteran of the Second World War, speaking on Friday about his service, and he shocked his hostess and host with his despair at how Britain is less free than when he fought for it. Let's look at what he says.
We're all going to be thinking about all the incredible service personnel that have served in all wars and all conflicts. What does Remembrance Sunday mean for you? What is your message?
My message is, I can see in my mind's eye there was rows and rows of white stones of all the hundreds of my friends and everybody else that gave their lives for what? The country of today. No, I'm sorry. The sacrifice wasn't worth the result that it is now.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
What do you mean by that, though?
What we fought for, and what we fought for was our freedom. We find that even now is darn sight worse than what it was when I fought for it.
Oh, Alec,
I have to say that when I first watched that, I shed a tear. I felt bad for Alec, sad for him, and selfishly, I felt sad for myself because it speaks to my own feelings about Britain's decline. And I felt sad for my family, both my parents who are still alive, and they have similar upset at how Britain has declined in their lifetime. They have the privilege of having known Britain back in the 40s and known how great Britain was, and how and the downside of knowing how great Britain is that it is more shocking to see the decline than it is for younger people who have only known decline. They have a different baseline, even if they're not aware of the decline. I'm just going to point out a few things here. So this is Kate Garraway. Let's play it on. She's going to close him down. Let's have a listen.
sorry you feel like that, because I want you to know that all the generations that have come since, including me and my children, are so grateful for your bravery. And
first of all, that's not true. Okay, so one of the complaints about where Britain is going is that it doesn't honor its past. In fact, it repudiate the woke, at least, repudiate its past, and the mainstream media are part of that woke complex that repudiates past and repudiates the prior generations who made it great, in part because they're too white, or if they fought in the military, they were part of an imperialist complex. So that's not true. Sorry, let's see what happens next.
all that for service personnel, and it's our job now, isn't it, to make it the country that you've...
I really hate that. She puts a hand on his shoulder, which is part of closing him down. And I'm going to show you another. It gets worse from there. So she's going to close him down, and instead of letting him speak more or asking him questions to explore why he despairs about what Britain has become, she's going to close him down, talking over him there, and then they're going to bring out a gift which they've scripted. It's an audio CD, as if he needs that, of music from the 40s. And there's a funny, I'm going to mention that. So this is the gift being presented. Woo, whoopee-doo. We don't care what you actually think. We're just going to provide this visual for the audience, which we've scripted. Let's go back and watch what happens, because there's been some comment about how the host intervenes here and what his motivations are.
My message is,
What do you mean by that, though?
the sacrifice wasn't worth the result that it is now.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
What do you mean by that, though?
What we fought for.
Right, so there's a lot to take from this image right here. So she spoke to him in that horribly vacuous, condescending way, which I have to say, as somebody who grew up in Britain, is very British from the leftist, faux emo class, where she goes, oh yeah, as if she sympathizes. It's so inauthentic, but it's that in that class of people, they really think that they have a monopoly on empathy. Oh yeah. I'm going to point out she's got a hand over her mouth. That's Kate Garraway. She's got a hand over her mouth, and what that body language is saying. I wish you'd shut up. My, she's speaking. She's thinking subconsciously about the guest. You're not saying the right thing. This is not what we expected you to say. You just should have said some guff about how you're thinking of your veterans, but don't make any comment about how Britain has declined since the Second World War. We just want you to shut up at this point. So she's got a hand over her mouth, so she is mirroring what she wants him to do, which is to shut up. She's got a hand over her mouth, and she's crossed her other arm. In a defensive posture, she is not happy.
Oh well, I'm sorry.
What do you mean by that, though? At this point,
what we thought.
I'm just going to pause it there, right? So watch Kate Garraway. She's got to do a big sign. She's going to look at the producer. Maybe she's rolling her eyes. She's going to look at the producer. She's not happy.
What do you mean by that, though? At this point,
what we thought for.
Looked at the producer.
What we thought.
Addy Ray is the host here, and he's asking, "What do you mean by that?" And some commentators have wondered he's trying to set a trap here, try to get this old white man to say something objectionable. You could maybe say that well, Britain has declined because it's got too many immigrants in it. I don't think that's what he's saying, and he's quite explicit. And they ignore it. He's explicit. Britain is less free than it was when he fought for it and won the war in 1945. They don't explore it. They ignore it. And it gets worse from there because this is broadcast on ITV. ITV does not explore it. They don't explore it on the program. They don't bring it up in the news. This is ITV News exploits it, but doesn't explore it, right? Exploit, but doesn't explore. So this is a short video that ITV News posted on their YouTube channel, and they use the caption for clickbait. Now the country is worse than it was when I fought for it. And they do broadcast the audio part, but by the way, there's 8 minutes that he gets. The nominally he gets 8 minutes. He's not asked about what he thinks on Remembrance Day until 4 minutes in. He gets less than a minute to complain about what Britain has become. And then there's another 3 minutes, almost 4 minutes, of this guff where they talk over him. And then they say, oh, you're going to have an audio CD. Now run along, old man. So that's ITV. They do not explore that story. It would have been interesting. They could have made interesting content out of it to ask him, well, why do you think Britain has declined? Let's do that. But ITV doesn't do it because they're woke. So who does do it? So you get the only conservative news network in Britain, GB News. That night you get Patrick Christie's show leads with it. Let's have a listen to what he says.
Like many of you, today I saw a clip that absolutely broke my heart. She said the sacrifice that him and so many other people made was not worth the country that we've got. Now, that's Alec, by the way. He's 100 years old. I want to tell you a little bit about Alec. So he joined the Royal Navy.
All right, so Patrick Christie's is going to devote 20 minutes to discussing why Britain's disrespect veterans. That's the angle on it. So it's a good angle. I mean, Patrick Christie's is not exploring why Alec Penstone feels that Britain has declined, not primarily. So good for GB News, good for Patrick Christie's for devoting some time to it that night. Now, the only other media which gives Alec Penstone any time is a conservative talk show, Talk TV. So it's on radio and it's also on YouTube. And there's actually 4 segments here. So let's listen to the first one.
Now, listen, a war veteran has surprised 2 ITV presenters by saying that the Britain that he fought for was not worth it. Here's the clip.
So that's the first one. And here's the second segment on Talk TV.
Graham Davis, there'll be plenty of people that will agree with this man because we have a very disordered society. We've got rife shoplifting. You've got masked men walking down the street shouting, "Globalise the Intifada." It's not a great look for these heroes who sacrificed so much for our freedom.
He and his colleagues and his friends fought for 6 years against fascism to protect our freedom. And now we are an island nation that can't even protect its own borders.
Right, so this segment rightly links Alec Penstone's despair about what Britain has become with some of the issues that he doesn't mention but are implicit as the background context to why we would despair about what Britain has become. So issues like uncontrolled borders, uncontrolled immigration, declining public safety. So good for Talk TV to bring those together. And also Graham Davis mentions declining freedom. Now here's the third segment on Talk TV.
That is just an absolutely very sad and shocking comment there from Alec Penstone there, who sacrificed so much of his youth and sacrificed years fighting for this country, as and many of his friends made the ultimate sacrifice. We're coming into Remembrance weekend, and yet we see a couple of studies actually, but one in particular about national pride plummeting. 8 in 10 people say they feel the nation is divided. Half of the public saying Britain's culture changing too fast. It all points to an increasingly divided, polarised, downbeat society. There are 48% of people who say they'd like the country the way it used to be. Double the number of people of 5 years ago saying trans rights have gone too far. Trevor, what do you make of what we heard there and of the statistical evidence from this survey?
Well, Alex, was it Alex Penscombe?
Alec, yeah.
Alec Penscomb's remarks are truly shocking and yet not at all surprising. I think that he speaks for a whole generation, and indeed for my generation and younger, who are wondering what the hell is going on in this country, what's happening to it, and why is it being allowed to happen? Why are...
Yeah, so that's fair. So these hosts, host and guest, they point to something different than the previous segment, which is there is a wide sense of despair, a majority sense of despair in the direction that Britain is taking. And here's some of the issues for it. They're woke issues, the decline, the 2-tier privileging of foreign cultures over British culture, and the woke agendas for the privileged tiny minorities of society, such as the transgender privilege. So this is a fair segment, something that ITV could have explored but chose not to. And this is the fourth segment on Talk TV, and this is notable because it actually gets a Minister of Government to try to respond, and notice how she pivots.
To the Minister for Veterans and People, Louise Sanders-Jones. Welcome to the show.
Okay, so I'm just going to pause there to make a comment about her job title. She is the Undersecretary of Defence, one of them. And her title under the Keir Starmer administration is Minister for Veterans and People. What? Aren't veterans also people? I don't understand this job title. By the way, that title used to be the Minister for Veteran Affairs. Why isn't she still the Minister for Veterans Affairs? Who knows? She's the Minister for Veterans and People. With no justification, but it's going to get worse. So that's the title. Maybe you might blame Keir Starmer for the title, and it's not her fault. But look at the person. Look what she does here.
Hi, Louise. What's your reaction to that clip? There's been massive online reaction to it because it's actually really, really rubbed up against people. That man spoke for a lot of how Britain is feeling right now. Do you echo those concerns?
I mean, it is really heartbreaking to see, you know, a gentleman like that when he's talking and reflecting back on his military service and what that means for him now. Of course, it's incredibly moving. You know, I'm a veteran myself. I served in Afghanistan. And when I heard him speaking, I think it really sort of made me reflect on my own service in Afghanistan. And also, I was kind of thinking, obviously, he spoke a little bit about why he has the feelings that he does now. But I was also just reflecting on what kind of things made me feel the same way as well. And I think, you know, one of the real big reasons why I'm sat right here right now is because I think, you know, I was starting to agree with him when I was looking around, particularly during my military service, when I was seeing the military just getting cut in front of my eyes. And I thought, this isn't the direction that I want to go in. When I left the military, I was looking around and seeing, you know, the NHS that was in the state that it was, education system as well. And for me, I thought, I know as a country we can do better than this, and I know that we have been better than this, and that's what motivated.
So let's see how she relates to a 100-year-old veteran of the Second World War's despair at how Britain has declined since 1945, particularly on the issue of freedom, the lack of freedom, declining freedom into authoritarianism, which Keir Starmer's administration has accelerated. The way she relates to it is she reflects on how the military was not taken care of under the previous administration, under the Conservative Party, and therefore she joined the Labour Party so she could make a difference. Does anybody follow that? So how is Alec Penstone's complaint about Britain at all relevant to why she joined the Labour Party? I'm a veteran myself. Yeah, we're all veterans. That's a disgraceful pivot. That is the Minister for Veterans. I'm not going to subject you to the rest of what Louise Sanders-Jones has to say, but she keeps getting pressed to respond to what Alec Penstone has to say, and she keeps pivoting to what a terrible job the Conservative Party did in the previous government. Well, the Conservative Party has not responded to Alec Penstone. The only political party that has responded is Advance UK. We posted the video and tweeted, "A soldier's heartbreak should be our call to arms, not for war, but for renewal. Britain must become the nation they fought for." And then that makes Ben Habib the only political party leader to draw attention to Alec Penstone's message. "This is the state of our nation. Those that fought for our freedom are distraught. If anyone knows this gentleman, please could you let me know?" So Advance UK again reaching out to a victim of the system while the system ignores him. All right, now let's get to the American reaction. So we're going to get to Will Kane's show. He's going to give Alec Penstone a bigger audience than any of those British media programs or networks. But first, I have to explain why Will Kane is particularly relevant to veterans. It starts because Will Kane sat next to Pete Hegseth, the man on the right, combat veteran and now Secretary of War in the Trump administration. They used to share a morning show, and Pete Hegseth 6 years ago joined the inaugural Navy SEAL Challenge. Let's have a look at him doing that.
Waking up across the country, Pete is going to undertake the challenge of swimming in the Hudson River for a good cause.
Across the Hudson River with about 30 Navy SEALs. It's going to take us a couple of hours.
Yeah, so it's 3 miles. 3 miles across the River Hudson. I've done it myself. There they go. That's the first leg. First half-mile leg around Statue of Liberty. This is Hegseth getting out the water at the first barge. I wasn't. This was in 2019. I didn't do it in 2019.
Yeah, Pete.
Smaller event.
Much respect to Navy SEALs. That's all I have.
Indeed. Pete Hegseth hates the swimming, so he actually handed off to his morning show co-host, Will Kane, who now has his own show. Now, Will Kane has done the Navy SEAL Challenge for the last 4 years, and I've joined him on that. So Will Kane has become a bit of a champion for veterans in his own right. And he has his own show now, evening show, and this is where he's reporting on the 2025 iteration, August 2025.
For the last 4 years, I've taken part in that swim, and I did so again this weekend. I inherited the mantle of championing this on Fox News from the now Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. It was, as always, an incredible weekend with America's heroes. It was also, honestly, the most adventurous New York City Navy SEAL swim yet.
There we are, swimming, coming out of the water.
Stop number one. That one was a little salty, a little bit like a washing machine out there. I hit some hard times.
Okay, and this is where he's broadcasting from the first barge, and that's me, the very white-looking person. I can attest that Will Kane really cares about veterans, and it has helped him build an audience for his particular show, the Will Kane Show, strong with veterans. And this is Friday's Will Kane Show, where he highlights Alec Penstone.
Welcome back. Veterans Day is next week, and this soundbite from a World War II veteran in the UK really got our attention.
Indeed, so you get the idea. Now, Fox News chose the banner, quote, honest, heartbreaking admission. And Will Kane described it as a terrible warning for America, a warning for how veterans can be disrespected, for one thing, and then a warning for where America could go if it goes down the trajectory of Britain, and let's hope not. Now, why does the Will Kane show matter? Because it has a bigger audience than ITV. So Will Kane gets 2.2 million live viewers. That's about the same as ITV Evening News gets at peak, and that the Evening News is the most popular program on ITV. The show goes out on Fox News Channel, the most watched news channel in America. It has almost 5 million live viewers at peak, and nearly 15 million subscribers on YouTube. For comparison, ITV News counts barely 2 million subscribers on YouTube. And the audience for Will Kane's show skews towards veterans, as I just attested to, which means that when Will Kane draws attention to a British veteran, he's getting the attention of American veterans, including the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. Now let's look at the Christian Broadcasting Network, which has 2.6 million subscribers on YouTube.
This next clip I'm about to show you, it's going to tell you literally everything you need to know about how far the UK has fallen recently. Alec Penstone, he's a 100-year-old World War II veteran from England, and he went on Good Morning Britain and said something that everyone, including Americans, really need to hear. And that's not bitterness talking. You can hear it in his voice. That is true heartbreak. I mean, this is a man who watched his friends die for a nation to promise to uphold freedoms. And now he's wondering if that freedom even exists anymore. It's really sad to watch. And he's not wrong to ask. I mean, in the UK today, we've reported on this here at CBN many times. The freedoms that he and his comrades had bled for, they're starting to disappear. I mean, we've seen Christians being arrested simply for.
Yeah. By the way, that later in this discussion, so there's quite a big discussion on this particular program. Later on, the host specifies the freedoms that have started to disappear as, quote, freedom of thought, speech, and faith. And it illustrates how in tune Americans are with what's happening in Britain. They're very aware of it. And I'll try to explain the reasons for why that should be. Now let's go to United States Marine Kagan Dunlap, who has nearly 1 million followers on YouTube.
He left his factory job to enlist as soon as he turned 18, fighting for Britain's freedom throughout the entire war. He was stationed in Hong Kong in 1945 and survived the war, but lost a lot of friends along the way, describing himself as, quote, a lucky one. Now, the segment was intended to be aired as a tribute to Remembrance Day, with one of the anchors asking Penstone what message he had for the younger generations, and what ended up following was a raw, tearful outpouring that cut straight to the heart of a lot of the generational divides that people in the United Kingdom are feeling these days, and also the national disillusionment that a lot of people in the UK are feeling but are afraid to speak up about because they're afraid of persecution. So I want.
Yeah, so national disillusionment mentioned there. And then the fact that a lot of Britons are afraid to talk about it because they get persecuted for it, that it gets politicized. There's two-tier justice, two-tier policing, there's two-tier politics. And if you speak up about how Britain has declined, that can land you in jail. We're going to look at conservative talk show Larry O'Connor with more than 600,000 followers for his YouTube talk show.
Do you ever watch the daily headlines scream by on your cable news box or maybe on your social media feed and your streaming platforms and you think, how the hell did we get here? And what is going on with Western civilization? Well, you're not alone. But imagine you were watching all of that through the eyes of a 100-year-old man who fought and risked his life in World War II to protect that very Western civilization you see falling apart before your very eyes. Well, such is the case with this man who was featured on British television this week. And what he had to say, well, you need to listen.
My own daughter.
It's very sweet, and I wish they weren't so patronizing the way they spoke to him, because he was saying something pretty important and pretty significant. And sadly, the BBC had to sweep in and arrest him for sexual harassment for kissing that young woman's hand.
That's very funny. Okay, so he mistook ITV as BBC, but the what he just said there is funny. It's both funny and it's revealing. So yes, there is a real risk of you being accused of a sex crime if you behave in a old-fashioned, gentlemanly way, maybe considered provocative. Now, later on, Larry O'Connor is going to complain again about how the hostess and host glossed over his answer. Indeed, it's obvious, right, to these American commentators. Another American YouTuber, he reposted the interview with an urging, quite a long one, which I want you to hear.
I want you to pay particular attention to how shabbily and shamefully and dismissively he is treated by the hosts of the program, for having committed the awful transgression of saying words that are contrary to the globalist, neoliberal, multicultural worldview that they and everyone else in the legacy news media are paid to promote as if it is a state religion, which it basically is. Instead of engaging with Mr. Penstone's words or asking him to elaborate on why he is so heartbroken at the state of his country whose freedom he fought to defend over 8 decades ago, they just give him a little patronizing pat on the head and shift straight to, okay, let's wrap this thing up as quickly as possible before the old codger says any more politically incorrect things.
Now, finally, I'm going to show you this American correspondent. He worries that what Penstone said on ITV could get him arrested.
A century ago, Alec Penstone risked everything to defend Great Britain from tyranny, and now what he just said on television might put him in jail. Now, at 100 years old, he says it feels like tyranny has returned, only this time it's flying its own flag. On national television, the Royal Navy veteran broke down, saying that the sacrifice wasn't worth the result it is now. And you know what? He's right. In modern Britain, people are arrested for waving the Union Jack. Citizens are silenced for speaking out, while the government protects feelings instead of freedom. And that's not liberty, that's fear in a new uniform. And wait until you guys hear what this hero said that shook the world.
So in my Substack, which I posted this morning, I set out to answer the question, why are Americans giving more attention to Alec Penstone, giving him a bigger audience and treating him more sympathetically than the British mainstream media, the articulate class as a whole, including all the political parties except Advance UK. All right, so what the first answer I had was that Americans are institutionally, culturally more respectful towards veterans. The United States government honors veterans with 2 federal holidays. So you've got Memorial Day in May, and you've got Veterans Day, which is Remembrance Day in Britain. Congress funds a Veterans Administration, an agency of the federal government. Britain has no equivalent to that. And then there's all the cultural and economic, commercial privileges that veterans get in America that they do not get in Britain. I often shock British veterans by saying to them that, look, think about all the privileges that students get in Britain, discounts and freebies for being students that American students typically do not get. Well, those privileges American veterans get, right? And this is partly overcompensation for the terrible way that the veterans of Vietnam were treated. Now, the second explanation I have for why Alec Penstone is getting more attention in America is that America itself is politically further along than Britain. America has moved through peak wokeness. The Biden administration was the most woke presidency America has ever seen, and Americans repudiated it. They did not grant a second term to Joe Biden or his undemocratically chosen successor, Kamala Harris. They brought back Donald Trump for a second term. They repudiated wokeness. We are over peak wokeness. That's not to say there's not still a lot of wokeness in America. I would say 40% of Americans are still flying the flag for wokeness. It's a large minority, but we've seen peak wokeness, and institutionally, culturally, Americans are on the other side of it. Even if they don't support Donald Trump, they're on the other side of it. Wokeness is in decline in America. It's not in decline in Britain. We have Keir Starmer's administration amplifying and extending it. Most Britons are against wokeness. You can see that in the polls. Alec Penstone speaks for most Britons. Most, as you've seen earlier, the data shows most Britons also despair about the direction Britain is going in. And yet the articulate class, the elite as a whole, stamp on it. They won't give it attention. So I can illustrate America's peak wokeness with this gentleman. Speaking in 2022, during the Biden administration, this is a 100-year-old veteran, a United States Marine, who also despairs about the direction his country is taking in 2022, speaking in ways that foreshadow what Alec Penstone has to say about Britain.
I am so upset that the things we did and the things we fought for and the boys that died for it, it's all gone down the drain. Our country's gone to hell in a handbasket. We haven't got the country we had when I was raised, not at all. Nobody will have the fun I had. Nobody will have the opportunity I had. It's just not the same. And that's not what our boys, that's not what they died for. It's not it. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. We should look forward to years in the future around 2029. This is the best we can do. Look forward to 2029 when Britain can catch up with where America is in 2025. This